Hey guys, welcome to Make Money Count. Today we're going to be speaking about a dying breed of business, which is the places that produce the fuck Trudeau flags. Because he's gone. He's gone.
Hey, that was good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
He's gone.
I don't know if those are done forever, though.
I mean, yeah, people are still going to hate him.
Yeah.
Sales will drop, though. Sales will drop.
It's so great. I feel like it was just so recently that Trudeau went down to Mar-a-Lago and told Canada that Poilievre was out to lunch and that Canada needed a strong leader right now. It needed the Liberal government to deal with Trump. It needed a government to be strong and united because we were facing this massive threat from the United States and things were going to change, and that selflessly he was going to be that leader. And, you know, then afterwards we could deal with all this election nonsense, but now wasn't the time for a non-confidence.
Right.
Buying himself just a little bit more time,
Yeah.
just a little bit more time. We know he's a dead man walking at that point, but he is whoever he's speaking to in Canada. Somehow he delusionally believed at that point that Canadians were buying that he and Chrystia Freeland should be the ones negotiating with Donald Trump.
Yeah, the Liberals negotiating with Donald Trump is kind of like you've just dropped the frozen turkey in the big deep fryer on Thanksgiving in the States, and then you come in with like water, like a hose to put it out. It's just going to spread it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Did you like that analogy?
I didn't really understand it. Why? If the
Because it's a
turkey's
shit
frozen?
show. Yeah, well, normally, I mean, I guess maybe our listeners aren't avid turkey deep fryers. I'm not either, but I just watch the videos on Instagram, and if you put the frozen turkey in too fast, it blows up in flames.
Oh, I
So
didn't
you got to
know
do
that.
it slowly.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay. With so many negative factors influencing the Canadian economy right now, this is what our Prime Minister had to say on his departure.
I intend to resign as party leader, as Prime Minister, after the party selects its next leader through a robust, nationwide, competitive process.
Okay. After the party has a chance to pick some other lame duck loser that nobody wants to run the country.
Nincompoop.
Yeah, okay.
I
So
think you call it.
yeah. And in the meantime, how about we prorogue the parliament and just stop things until March 28th to give us a chance to collect ourselves? Okay, so now we're going to wait until April. Trump's going to come into power on the 20th of January, and we're going to have nobody dealing with this?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so the one guy that, like, I love steps up to the plate, Doug Ford. You want to hear what he has to say about it? This is going to be like a few clips today on the show, okay? Here's what Doug Ford had to say.
And we need to focus to make sure these tariffs don't move forward. And if they do move forward, we need to make sure that the federal government has a strong plan. The Prime Minister said he'd sit down with all the premiers, face-to-face meeting. I still want to hold him to that promise. He still will be Prime Minister for a month, maybe 2 months, but that has to be his number one focus. We have a great group of premiers as chair of the Council of Federation.
Listen, Doug Ford's only concern is the tariffs right now. Even like later on in this exact same press clip, they ask him, what about he was planning on calling an election for the province in the spring. And they're like, what about calling an election? He's like, listen, nothing else matters right now. A 25% tariff matters right now.
Yeah.
Okay. Unfortunately, not everyone in Canadian politics gives a shit about the country.
Right.
We had a leader running our country for a decade who was like delusional, totally out of touch, felt that like Canada needed him in some fashion. Like there are certain characteristics of the guy that we had running our country that should set off massive alarm bells now, in retrospect, for everybody that voted for this guy. But like, it's just like his agenda was the agenda that he felt was best for Canada. And in the end, his agenda is the one that inflicted this massive amount of harm on our country.
Right.
Our immigration policy. I hate being so political. My mom does not like this. She wants me to be optimistic. I'm going to be optimistic because things can't get any worse, Mummy. This is about as bad as it gets. The threat of this tariff, okay, sure. The tariff comes in, we got a problem, okay? The tariff comes in, we have a problem. But hopefully the tariff doesn't come in.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you something. The poly market odds of that tariff, I am starting to think are wrong.
They went up a little bit recently.
Yeah,
Because
they-
I checked it yesterday.
Pull them up.
Pull them up.
18%, I think.
Oof.
Yeah. They're up like 2 or 3 percentage points from when we last looked at it. I just think that it's such a tiny market. Like, it's $350,000 US dollars that's what they're betting on it.
Right.
I think that, like, oh man, I think the probability is way higher that a tariff comes in right away. I think he just does it.
Really? He just like comes in and like.
I read an article about how he is planning on utilizing a certain Emergencies Act in order to bring the tariffs in right away. And I think like he's getting such an overwhelmingly positive response from the Americans on like all of this bluster. Like, oh, look, he said he wanted to take over Greenland, right?
Yeah.
He said he wanted to take the Panama Canal and Greenland, and he would do it with military force if required, right? And the Americans, obviously he's reading polling numbers. Nobody cares more about what people think of him than Trump.
Right.
And people think highly of him.
What's the point of Greenland though?
I mean, like strategic
Right.
mineral assets. Like, how about that's a great question. What's the point of Greenland?
Yeah.
Greenland has access to the Arctic Circle,
Right.
right? It has a claim on the Arctic Circle, and it gives you an opportunity to vie for access to all the mineral rights, all the oil, natural gas rights for an area that is known to be extremely rich.
Right.
The other thing you would say is, like, if Trump was really Putin's bag man, then he wouldn't be vying for Greenland.
Right. Yeah.
Because Greenland is at odds with Russia over claims for the Arctic.
Right.
So, like, listen, if you are an American, you're probably pretty happy with what's going on right now.
Right.
This guy is the biggest proponent of American success. He wants to make that country great again. Anyways, so I think the tariffs getting scarier. Why don't you want to hear what Trump says?
Yeah.
Okay, can you pull up the Trump clip for me, please?
You said you were considering military force to acquire Panama and Greenland. Are you also considering military force to annex and acquire Canada?
No, economic force. Because Canada and the United States, that would really be something. You get rid of that artificially drawn line, and you take a look at what that looks like, and it would also be much better for national security. Don't forget, we basically protect Canada. But here's the problem with Canada. So many friends up there. I love the Canadian people. They're great. But we're spending hundreds of billions a year to protect it. We're spending hundreds of billions a year to take care of Canada.
So he's not ruling out military force to take over Greenland and the Panama Canal. He's ruling out military force to take over Canada. Okay. But he is clearly not ruling out economic force, which is the tariff.
Right.
And he has already seen what the response to the tariff has been.
Right.
Remember, right? Like, we had a prime minister who thought himself so capable. Like, I'm sure Justin Trudeau thought that he was like Donald Trump's equal.
Right.
Right? Again, delusional, self-important, thought he was amazing. Like, I don't. Can you run through these characteristics? You know, I looked up what these characteristics mean.
Right. American Psycho.
You know what they are? Pull up this clip. Pull up this link from the Cleveland Clinic, of all places. Listen, it just has these 9 characteristics of Justin Trudeau or a narcissist. Grandiose sense of self-importance, fantasies about deserving, sense of self-superiority, need for excessive admiration, sense of entitlement, exploitive behavior, a lack of empathy. Like, okay.
Etc.
Yeah, okay, we get it. We get it. Anyways, who cares? It doesn't matter. This isn't a personal attack on somebody that destroyed our country. That's not what this is, okay? It's about how we can get better. And we've got a leader who is in the United States that could affect some serious damage. And we sent, before Christmas, our prime minister decided to go down there and speak to him. You want to know what happened? Because Trump told us what happened in the clip.
Yeah.
You want to see the clip?
Yeah.
Show us the clip.
We don't need their cars, and we don't need the other products. We don't need their milk. We got a lot of milk. We got a lot of everything. And we don't need any of it. So I said to him, well, why are we doing it? He said, I don't really know. He was unable to answer the question, but I can answer it. We're doing it because of habit.
Done. Okay, so Prime Minister of Canada goes down to Mar-a-Lago, has a sit down with Donald Trump. Donald Trump says, why are we subsidizing your products? Why are we doing it?
Right.
What is the reason for doing it? Trudeau can say anything at this point. He can say, listen, we've got a really long-term relationships. You're pointing out a few things that you may happen to subsidize, but there's a natural subsidy that you're receiving when we send hundreds of billions of dollars worth of when we send hundreds of billions of dollars worth of unrefined fuel down to the United States for below market pricing so that you can refine it and make more money on it. Like we're essentially the outpost that sends the raw material back. Like we are colonized.
I was just in Chicago. Gas was $1 a liter.
Right.
Crazy.
But like if you think about this imbalance between Canada and the United States, the reason why this massive trade deficit exists is because we send all of our oil, unrefined oil there. And if we didn't send it there, it would be to their detriment.
Right.
It would be to Canada's benefit. If we could refine our own oil and send it to other markets, it'd be great. We don't do that, though. So in a conversation with Donald Trump, the prime minister of our country has to stand up for our country.
Right.
Not only that, they have to know our country.
Right.
They have to know, know the fundamentals of our country. They can't just have a few talking points every time they get in front of a camera and trick the Canadian people and then expect that the same bullshit's going to work against a leader who clearly understands what it takes to run that country and to make that country successful.
Right.
Right? He asks him a question. He says, why are we doing it? Trudeau says, I don't know. And then he goes on to say, what do you think would happen if we imposed a 25% tariff? And Trudeau says you would destroy our country.
Right.
Okay. So he shows not only ignorance and a lack of understanding of what's going on in the trade balance with the United States, but then he also shows extreme weakness.
Yeah, that whole thing about like, well, you're just gonna destroy our country is like, it's like it gives me the shivers. You know what I mean? It's like, well, then I'll just go fuck myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Mr. Trump, you should consider that you're alienating a lot of your previous allies, the America's allies. And I think that at a certain point, you risk having those allies working more closely together to the detriment of the United States.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
We have no intention of doing that because it's going to be painful and difficult for the Canadian people, but the Canadian people don't want to be the 51st state. In fact, like, doesn't it feel like we're getting bullied right now?
Yeah.
We're getting
bullied. I
bullied.
mean, Kevin O'Leary himself said he wanted a singular passport, no?
Yeah. Like, I don't even want to bring the guy up.
Yeah.
Like, he's just out for himself. The guy lives in the States and he's...
Right, of course.
Right? He's trying to make money.
Yeah.
Listen, how about this? If Canada entered into an economic union with the United States, Canadians would be richer.
Right.
But it's not all about money.
Right.
Okay? There's two reasons why I don't think this works. Number one, it's not all about money. Number two, don't get upset about what you're hearing, is what I would say. Okay? This is business. Canada is, if you think of Canada like a company, Canada is a company and it had a really bad CEO. It had horrible corporate governance. It had a bad board of directors that wasn't watching out. That's us, by the way. That's Canadians. We're the board of directors. And we installed a really bad CEO, and we let that CEO take us for a long ride. And our stock price is in the dumps. It sucks. And we are now engaged in the most ultimate of stinking thinking. I love that. You introduced me to that, right? We have basically unemployment is rising. We can't do anything to stop real estate prices from falling. Interest rates continue to drop. They will continue to drop. Real estate prices might stabilize. It's unlikely we're going to see a pop because real estate prices are going to now be fighting against unemployment numbers. We've completely removed immigration. Hopefully we can solve immigration and start bringing in talented people that will help us increase the productivity of our country.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not going to happen unless the country can start showing itself to be worthy of bringing in that talented group of people. Anyways, all this is to say is that right now our stock price is at an all-time low. Don't look at just the Canadian dollar, but look at the Canadian dollar, right? Canadian dollar's at a low that we haven't seen for quite some time. It's kind of like our stock price. And there are no positive influences on the horizon that will lead us to a pop in that stock price. But that's not when you sell.
Right.
You don't sell right now.
Right.
And creating that union, this is like a hostile takeover attempt.
Yeah.
Right? So instead of a buyout offer, Trump is going to impose economic sanctions on Canada. Like as if we're fucking Iran.
Yeah, or Russia.
Right? It's gotten to this point, though. And I think that the probability on the poly market that the tariffs are coming in should be higher. I think they should be above 50%. I think there's a greater than a 50% chance that those tariffs are coming in. And it worries me.
That's scary.
Yeah. I think that will create a lot of problems for our economy. I think then we solve it, and then the economy starts behaving more normally and improving after that. But I think we're in for a little bit of a difficult time right now.
Do you think Pierre can navigate this or what?
Listen, he knows the country.
Yeah.
Like, do you see that interview with him or the podcast with him and Jordan Peterson?
But I want to watch it.
It was great. Like, he's so well spoken. He's so confident. He's a career politician too, right? The guy's been in politics since he was like 11 years old.
Right.
And I wish he had someone else as his attack dog.
Right.
Like, I hate the fact that our prime minister, or our prime minister elect, like the guy that's coming in, I hate that he has to do all the attacking of the current government on his own.
Right.
I feel like he should have someone else in a cabinet post that is his attack dog so that he can look a little more prime ministerial.
Right.
But that being said, all of these years as being the attack dog have created a kind of well-hardened, seasoned politician who knows his Canadian numbers and knows what it takes to make Canada successful.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, couple that with some business acumen, and you basically have Donald Trump.
Yeah.
But there's no business acumen there.
Right.
It's a politician, right? And going up against Trump for anybody is going to be a difficult process. I think that like the same list of characteristics we used to describe Justin Trudeau definitely apply to Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that there is a level of recognition that a narcissist receives when it's self-validating that might convert a narcissist into like a genius.
Yeah.
Or like a highly functional, successful person.
Mm-hmm.
So all of this to say is it's not the time to say Canada is going to be the 51st state. This is the wrong time to sell our country, right? There's never a time to sell our country, okay? But there's never, you can't, it's difficult to enter into a negotiation when you're in your absolute low point.
Right.
So how do you deal with this? I think you have to start being a little bit aggressive. I think you have to start by saying, listen, we get it. We're being bullied right now, right? Canada's not Greenland, right? Greenland has 50,000 people living in it. It's a big, gigantic island in the Arctic, and it's a Dutch colony.
Right.
Okay? Canada is a very self-sufficient country. Sure, we don't have a military. Okay, no problem. But we have a ton of natural resources. We have a ton of potential. We have incredibly smart, well-educated populace. And we were on an incredible trajectory. And we will be back on an incredible trajectory. And don't bet against Canada, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Kevin O'Leary shouldn't be betting against Canada.
Right.
Donald Trump shouldn't be betting against Canada. We had a guy who was in charge for 10 years that drove us into fucking oblivion.
Right.
But anybody else is going to do better than that. And the moment you start to see these sprouts of economic positivity, wait till you see how the general confidence of this country turns around.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen.
I said everything I needed to say that I had on here.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Remember, don't subscribe or
Don't
hit
do
the
it.
subscribe button. I don't know. Okay. Thanks for having us.
Bye.